Howdy y'all, welcome back to the channel. Short video for you today. I know many of us on my channel are probably familiar with the X-Files, but have you ever heard about the X-Patents? This is not a deep dive into science fiction mystery, but in fact, a seldom discussed true history case, which seems to have repercussions that are still reverberating to this day. On my channel, we always attempt to view history from a bird's eye view, taking a step away from the direct line of thinking to see if we can decipher a deeper narrative behind the mainstream. In the discussion today, keep two things in mind. If we were in fact to inherit a nation, in a hypothetical sense, one of the main or first things we would do is to catalog or document the so-called inheritance. In this sense, we'd be documenting the architecture, we'd be documenting the cities, and we'd document the passages to and from all of these major settlements. Maybe we'd also try to document the society as a whole, from person to person, but more than likely one thing we would definitely do is to document all of the creations which we discovered. This could encompass architecture, the architects behind it, and the process of creation, as well as the machinery, the inventions, and the items which we today may deem to be Antiquitech. This could include blueprints or directions, as well as documents of how to operate or how to traverse these newly acquired materials. Now, on my channel, we've discussed in countless videos information about the ancient Celts, about Leif Erikson, about Prince Akim, not coming to America with Eddie Murphy Prince Akim, but the Viking Akim, who is said to have first laid foot to and conquered America over 1,000 years ago. It's no coincidence that we can often see this true history, this true esoteric history, being hidden in plain sight in mainstream media. I've discussed as well the ancient mounds of the Mississippi Valley, as well as ancient mounds or tells that are found all around the world. We've looked at different stories of the mound builders, as well as stories of red-headed, bronze-skinned giant men. We've also discussed ancient pagan ruins that were seemingly grown into the earth and the indigenous people worldwide who are credited with them. We've discussed lost cities. We've discussed Norumbega, Atlantis, Lemuria, and even more obscure lands that appear on ancient maps worldwide that seem to all be linked together by things like ley lines. We've also discussed the concept as a whole of Tartary, that even 300 years ago, most of the world seemed to understand that some sort of proto-religion or proto-society was adopted at the earliest time of man, essentially, by the majority of the world. And this transformed mankind from just another beast in the animal kingdom to one of God's creations, bestowed with the ability or the gift to communicate, to build, and to farm their own land. In my opinion, up until the time of the last reset, some would say roughly 300 years ago, depending on what part of the world you're looking at, it seems to be a Tartar was just another word or a label. One that seems to tie hand in hand with being what the Abrahamic religions called a pagan. The same way today, we would say that a person is blonde or a tall person is lanky. Seems to be the same way that the word Tartar was applied hundreds of years ago, like an adjective. It appears this occurred even before the Crusades. In my opinion, Tartary was not in fact a vast empire, in a sense, but it was a vast group of people who all followed pagan beliefs and traditions. They farmed their own land, they built their own homes, and essentially they intended to stay away from the influence of the Abrahamic religions. We can also locate the numerous texts throughout time, ones from the 17 and 1800s, including the Anacalypsis, that identify this northern Indian Tartary region as the location for these earliest sparks of inspiration for man. But eventually, through the stories we read throughout the different Abrahamic religions, we can see that these lands, often called Gog and Magog, were used, and the Bering Strait was used, and the concept of a mini ice age was used between 500 and 1500 years ago to make a nearly irrefutable argument that an amalgamation of pagan worshippers today seem to be mainly of Asian origin, but in realistic terms, probably from a vast array of countries and backgrounds and skill sets, eventually made their way from the lands of Tartary, from Gog and Magog, from northern Russia, from Siberia, into northern Canada, across the Bering Strait, into the islands near the Arctic, and into what is today the United States of America. Of these ancient tales and myths of the people who first inhabited America, if it really was some sort of amalgamation of Viking, Tartar, or seafaring king, or another advanced ancient civilization, not only would this fit perfectly into the Masonic agenda and symbolism, which seems to have ruled over early America and indicate that more than just land was inherited, but it would also help to explain the next series of events which I will discuss in this video. This series of events literally reshaped American history. Oddly, I've even briefly discussed part of this topic in one of my earlier videos, but this part of the deeper narrative was left out of the documents I read completely. Let us now discuss the X-Patents. When the British sacked the fledgling capital of Washington D.C. during the War of 1812, Dr. William Thornton pleaded with the British troops not to burn the patent office. It had only been moved to this location in 1810 after the patent office as a government entity was officially formed in 1790 by Thomas Jefferson, Henry Knox, and Edmund Randolph. Dr. William Thornton was the patent office's first superintendent. The patent office building, by the year 1810, was located inside the rather large for its time Blaguet's Hotel, a huge, quote, empty hotel, which was never officially finished and had been sitting for many years, unused. The government inherited this building and converted it into both the first patent office and a post office for Washington, D.C. Does this sound familiar? Converting a massive, old building, even in the early 1800s, and then claiming what's inside the building as a new entity. It is very chilling. Furthermore, what was housed exactly inside this patent office, according to the narrative, not only were the plans for countless inventions and discoveries housed within this building, but with each one of these patents, at least for the earliest ones, it must have been submitted with a working model, meaning this massive hotel was full of working Antiquitech collected from across the country. Thousands upon thousands of inventions, said to all be newly created for the time, but fueled or even inherited from the massive land grabs occurring all across the United States. Essentially, if we ponder for just a moment that an advanced, even minimally, civilization thrived in America, we must also recognize that this success was accompanied by the use of tools, advancements of the different crafts, which made this growth possible. If we entertain the possibility that this advanced civilization, or the pockets of them found in America, came from the Tartars, or came from old Celtic Druids, or came from seafaring architects, then we must also discuss the machinery which accompanied them, and thus would have also been discovered in America by the Europeans who arrived here later to settle. For most viewers unfamiliar with my old world research, this might seem like quite a conundrum to imagine a civilization as advanced or more advanced than Europe was in the late 1700s and the 1800s, and yet, like a bat out of hell, with the expansion of manifest destiny and the inheriting of American lands and the growth of secret societies and the growth of rewritten history, and most of all, the growth of industrial and societal revolutions, we can see that this all seems to stem from the growth of America. It strikes me as quite a coincidence that everything worldwide, society, seems to experience a sort of rebuilding just as photography, telegraphs, advanced airships begin to make their way around the world. If an advanced civilization fueled this growth, causing a need to retell the ancient stories and rewrite the history books, could this advanced civilization have been found in America, pushed here centuries earlier across the Bering Strait? Just a little food for thought. But digressing back into the War of 1812, as the British are said to have ransacked the city of Washington, D.C., Dr. William Thornton pleaded with the foreign troops not to burn the patent office. Thornton claimed, essentially, the patent office contained the lost history of mankind. The British abided, apparently burning every other building in D.C. but the patent office. Now, we fast forward to 1836. The tides of the world have begun to shift. Europe, after Napoleon, is in unrest. Much of the world is in a similar pattern. What comes next is the Industrial Revolution. Trains, railway stations, immense architecture, steam-powered devices, telegraphs, photographs, the list goes on and on. One could argue, if this was all discovered technology, it had now made its way to most parts of the world. These patents, the secrets of the American Patent Office of Washington, D.C., were now no longer safe. On the cold winter night of December 15, 1836, at roughly 3 a.m., a fire broke out in the Patent Office. Just recently, according to this narrative, the Volunteer Fire Department of D.C. had been relieved of their duty, leaving only the paid staff to fight the fire. However, according to the same narrative, none of this staff was employed to work overnight. All in all, it is written that every single patent contained within the office, each one equipped with its own working model, was destroyed. We're talking about every patent issued by the United States from 1790, the first day of the patent office, through 1836, all being destroyed. Every discovery, every inherited piece of technology, if that's what it really was, or proof of these discoveries, or how they worked, all of it was destroyed in these flames. Another way to look at it is every major technological or architectural document or device that was created or founded or inherited by the United States government through its most formidable years from 1790 through 1836 was lost. It is written in this narrative, the United States government made exactly 0 copies of any of the patents or machines. Over 7,000 unique machines were lost, and these machines, as well as over 9,000 lost patents, are known together as the X patents. Essentially, all the modern day film and media you see that project and proclaim the X in the title and claim it to be sci-fi, like X-Files or X-Men, can all, in my opinion, be tied back to this hidden history of the X patents. It's almost disturbing to realize that the true history is seemingly being mocked. There's a reason that X-Files and X-Men and these science fiction titles with X in the name, they all seem to refer to off-the-books, hidden projects, hidden history, and Antiquitech, the same way that the X patents in real life deal with hidden files and Antiquitech and hidden discoveries and hidden maps, which made America at that time able to grow far more advanced more quickly than many other nations around the world thought possible. So what was really contained within these X patents? The world may never know, as to this day, roughly only 1,000 of these X patents have ever been recovered. In this narrative, it is written that the X patents have been rediscovered as recently as 2004, which begs the question, if they were never copied down, how much of this history that is told in the narrative can really be believed? Have you ever heard of these X patents before? Isn't it absolutely bonkers to imagine a country as powerful as America, literally in the days that it earned its power, in the days it earned its reputation, to simply lose every single patent of the machines and the blueprints which helped it to gain all of this power? Of course, we have architects and scientists and craftsmen of America all resubmitting their creations for new patents after the 1836 fire. But this could simply be seen as a way for the history to quite easily be rewritten. Oddly, I've never heard about the X patents before doing this reading and research for the video today. And even after a few months ago, making a video on Washington D.C., this information still never came up. It almost seems as if the 1836 destruction of the patent office by fire and the subsequent loss of all materials and machines was tucked under the rug, never for us to read about again. So I ask, one more time, have you ever heard about the X patents before? Can you see how, when we take a step back and look at it from a wide angle, the history here can be viewed as a somewhat nefarious retelling of what actually happened? Is there any merit in my theory that these X patents could have contained Antiquitech or other lost technology, possibly from the ancient pagan empire that once thrived in America? We also have a massive fire at the patent office again in the year 1877. This time, we're told over 600,000 patents and over 80,000 working models are destroyed. However, miraculously, some would say this is plausible deniability. It is written that none of the 600,000 patents that were destroyed were completely lost, as copies of every single one had been made. What a coincidence. One fire, oddly, in 1836 burns every single patent in America, and a second fire in 1877 apparently destroys over 600,000 patents, and yet somehow every single one of the 600,000 has been copied and preserved. It sounds like a plot to a bad movie, or maybe just the true hidden history as told in another classic Jared Booster's video. Thank you again for joining me today. I'm going to end the video there, wrap it up. I want to hear your thoughts down below. Please like, please share, subscribe, contribute to my channel at this link right here, and I will see all of you on the next video. Share any burning questions you have about the patent office or the X patents down below, and we will break down this narrative. Cheers, guys.